Hello, my name is Peter Pilgrim, and you're listening to another edition of the Java Web Users Group Birds of a Feather presentation. Meetup number Suite 16 took place at Oracle City of London offices in the heart of Moorgate.
Good evening. My name is Emmanuel Okyere. He always spells it with an E before after the K. That's not correct. My name is Emmanuel Okyere.
Okay.
I'm a web development consultant. I am currently working with a company in Farringdon called AKQA. I'm not doing Java stuff with them. I'm doing Flash Flex stuff with them. But in my free time, I play around with a lot of the Java frameworks, play around with some of the free and open source projects out there. And about 9 months ago, I found a web framework, a web application framework called RIFE. It's been on the server side a few times. If you read it at all, today it was on the creator of RIFE, whose name is Bevan from Germany, posted an article that relates to, I think, Simon Brown's post on. He's been comparing web application frameworks. He has a simple domain model, and then he has implemented that with some of the Java web frameworks out there. And so Geert posted something to do with that, with RIFE, which was getting some very good comments on the server side if you read it at all. So I am here to tell you something little about this framework, and then to get you excited about it, hopefully, and then get more people to actually go out and try it, and then see for themselves what this is about. Now, RIFE thrives on three main themes. It's a full stack web framework, and then everything else that it provides is implemented consistently. We'll see that as we go along. And then it allows you to get productive really quickly. You know, you can start doing things right away. You know, when people are building with other frameworks, they have to go in and do multiple configurations, come out and do compilations and stuff like that. Most of the time, you don't have that with RIFE. And so you have a framework, you download it, and you start getting on with your business. Most of the time, you don't even have to learn too much. You can take a few minutes, 5 minutes, and then you're getting productive already. So we'll see that as we go along. Now, like I said before, it's a web application framework. And most of us build websites or apps with them. In a RIFE web application, you have what are called participants. And the participants include your site itself, or you could have multiple sites. It includes the data sources. It includes your configuration data if you want to do any dynamic configuration before the app itself is loaded. It includes, if you have some authentication going on, you could have those as participants of the site. And so you can just imagine from these things, it has so many other things. And you can actually write custom participants and then add them to your set of participants. Now, what RIFE allows you to do is store all these participants in what is called a repository. You know, so it's a centralized location where you have all these participants that come together to make your web application work. And the repository is such that it's available once your application instantiated, you have the repository available to you, to the application. It's available everywhere in the application. So if you have application-wide objects, you could put them, you could create them as participants and put them in the repository as well. And we'll see this as we go along. Now, as I said, your site itself is one of the participants of the web application that you want to build. And a RIFE site is made up of elements. And so we've had our vocabulary picked up a bit already. So we have our participants, which are put in a repository. Our participants include the data sources and configuration and all that. And they're put in a repository. And one of the participants is, of course, our site itself. And that site is made up of elements. So you have different elements performing various functions in your site. And then that site is part of your participants. Now, when you create these elements, RIFE is sort of component-based. So your elements are different components of your application. Now, for your application to work, you have to find a way of wiring those components together. You might say you want to pass data from one component to another. You could look at an element. An example of an element could be, say, the home page of your application. And then you might want to move from the home page to a login page of the application. That would be another element or component of the site. And so RIFE allows you to link those elements or components together. And then it allows you to pass data between them. Okay, and we'll see all this as we go along. I wouldn't want to ramble on too much. Basically, this is a basic vocabulary that you would have to get to understand the way RIFE is set up if you go in the first time. And so instead of rambling, I would show. RIFE gives you. Let me just mention that here. RIFE gives you what is called a Jumpstart app. And what that is just a simple package that comes with the RIFE framework itself, and then some of the few dependencies it has, all packaged in one jar. And then it has what will probably be the most common configuration you'll have, your source files, your build folder, stuff like that already laid out for you. And then it's taking care of the configuration. It has a build process in there already for you, ready to go. So you could just go in and then build with ants and all that, all set up for you. And that's called the Jumpstart package. If you go to the RIFE website, you can just download that and just compile and start running your application. So I've downloaded that, and I'll show you how it looks like. So as I said, this is called the Jumpstart. It's just a zip file. I've already unpacked. Right. And I've not made any changes to this at all. So if we look at Jumpstart, it has your build folder, the libraries that you need to go. And then it has the RIFE jar that you need. These extra things here, for example, Neko HTML, and then the rest are in there just to do out-of-container testing of your application. And so they're not really required to use what we are about to see. Now, like I said, it has your build file ready to go, and then it comes with launchers for you, Eclipse already. I'm going to go ahead and then launch this application. And as you can see around here, it's just doing some compilation and everything. It's ready to go. Close that. So by downloading the RIFE Jumpstart package and then just unpacking that and then launching it in Eclipse, you have your web application ready to run for you. And it's running, currently it's running on Jetty. I'll show you. Running on Jetty, and it has everything else you need to know. So right away, RIFE is doing its magic. Now, how is it doing all this? What is it showing here? Okay, let's take a look at that. As I mentioned earlier on, everything in RIFE is centralized in your repository. Everything in RIFE is centralized in your repository, and that's just a bunch of configuration that you do to suit the specific application that you're writing. Now, if we go into participants, we get an idea. Is it clear enough for everybody? We get an idea of what is actually taking place. Okay, so in this, we have a participant config, which is some Java class somewhere. And then you have the data sources, which is also some class somewhere. You have your memory users, and then you have your site. Okay, and RIFE allows you to determine where you put these participants. So once it has a param property for this node here, and you can specify in your application where you actually have these participants defined. Okay. So in the case of the site XML, the participant site, RIFE is pointing us to the site's main XML file, and then we can look at that here. Pity I did not install the UTP on this. We would have had nicer looking XML. But this is basically what our site structure is. Now, the essence of the participant site is to allow you to actually determine the flows in your web application. So RIFE allows you to, in an XML file, define how your flows are happening, what goes on onto what from where. Okay, and then it actually also allows you, we'll see that later on down the line when we look at the implementations of these. Let me see here. This minute.
How does the participant relate to that site main XML?
Like we said over here, if we go back into the participants, we see that the param here maps that onto that file.
Okay, so that's the class.
So you can determine where you put your site structure. It doesn't have to be in sites XML. You can put it anywhere on your class path and then define it over here. But this is how Jumpstart comes. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to change it, that is up to you. Now, if we look into the main XML file, as we can see here, we have only one file here, and then we can't actually see our site structure in here. But if we look closely, I should have put WTP on this. It's hard to find them now. If we look closely, there's a subsite here. What RIFE allows you to do is to have subsites, which have subsites, which have subsites. You can create your own logical groupings of what you want your site structure to look like, and it has markup. It has tags that allow you to do that. Okay, so you can what the Jumpstart does is it creates a subsite for your public site, and then puts that in another XML file. You could decide that you don't want to do that. You could decide that you want to put everything in one site. But then if you want to break them up into logical groupings of your own, you're free to do that as well. Okay. So let me just open Hub XML and show you how that looks like. Let me just mention that your site participant is of course in a site XML, and then you have other things that are allowed in there, and we'll see elements like we mentioned before as we go along. Right. Now this is a very simple site. We won't even be concerned with these for now. Let's just look at the elements. We'll just concentrate on that. Now, every element has an ID, so you can reference it back in your Java source files. Okay, and then it has a file that points to its implementation. Okay, and then it has a URL that actually maps onto what you get, how you get to it from your client, from your browser. Okay, so for now, these are the most important parts of the element for us. It has an ID, and then a file that maps onto its implementation, and then a URL that allows you to get to it. Okay, now in this case, the file is actually mapping onto another XML file. Okay, so what you have here is you're looking at some flexibility that RIFE actually allows you. Okay, let's look at that here. and then it has the implementation of the file link here. Now I don't do this. I just have my element, and then I have my element, I have my implementation, and then I have the URL that maps to it. I keep it simpler than having to follow through. That is how Jumpstart comes. Okay. What is important about this is that RIFE allows you to, one, show, to define how you get to a particular element, you know, with a particular URL in your site structure. And then it allows you to declare what that implementation is, which should map to a Java class eventually. You know, so in this case, what we have here is what you can see there. You know. And this is a very simple Java class. There's nothing interesting really happening here. Every Java element, every RIFE element, sorry, extends the element class, which is part of the framework. And then it allows you, what the element allows you to do is to grab a particular template for your application, and then be able to do all sorts of processing with a template. Now, the RIFE idea is that you have templates in plain HTML or XML files, and then you have all the logic for a particular template in Java files. So whereas in like JSP or something, you will still have some logic. You could have some logic in your JSP code. RIFE doesn't do that at all. It doesn't allow you to do any sort of logic. You don't even do loops or any sort of thing in your templates. And so right from the word go, you know that you cannot do that. But what you can do is put markers in those in whatever template you have, and then pull those markers in your elements, and then do all sorts of processing in there. And so the templates are bi-directional. They allow you to supply values to them, and then they allow you to take values from them. But that's all you actually do. It's sort of a dump space for you, and then you do all sorts of things that relate to those templates in your Java source files. Okay, so in this case, this template here maps to the pub home template. This element maps to the pub home template, and all this is doing is picking up that template and then printing it out, and that's what actually prints out the hello world or the home page that we saw earlier on. Okay, so this is what this is doing. This is actually just taking that template, which is here, which is this, and then printing it out. Okay.
So are those those expressions, are those the identifiers for where content's going?
These are actually RIFE specific tags. Right. Let's look at how this actually looks like in code. So these are actually RIFE specific tags. Now, RIFE has three main tags for templates, and then the fourth one, which I think is a specialization of one of them. So they say 4, I say 3. it has an include tag, which allows you to pull in other templates. Okay, and then it has what is called a block value tag. Now, what a block value tag allows you to do is to be able to pull in a block in your code, and we'll see this with a second example. It's not being done in the simple example we're looking at, but allows you to pull that in your Java source code, and then inject values back into your page. Okay, they're doing a similar thing here. There's also a block value, and then there's a value tag as well. So there's an I for include, there's a B for block, there's a V for values, and then there's a BV, which I think is just a specialization of the B. Okay, and all this is doing is pulling common blueprint, which is part of our templates somewhere. We can see it in here. It's pulling this. It's pulling the common blueprint, so it's including that right in your template, in your first template. Then it's pulling common errors. Okay, and those are some other blocks in there. So you can see that it allows you, it's so flexible. He's defining other blocks in here which could be reused in other templates as you go along. So most of the time you would probably have a designer develop your what the final templates will look like, and then you will look at the parts that are dynamic or the parts that are common and extract them out into files like these, and then you'll be able to cut down on markup you're writing, of course, and then logically place them to suit what you're doing. Now, when Home has pulled in all the other templates, when it's included them, if we look at the common template, we will see what is actually happening here with the block values. Blueprint. We see here that's actually set up what will be a window title, so that's some dynamic aspect of whatever template you will have in this common blueprint. And then when we come into Home, you see that this here defines what a home title would be. So if we went into our application now and we change this, something interesting happens. The title changes to JAVAWUG BOF XBI. Okay, and so dynamically, this is actually a feature of RIFE. You can have source being compiled on the run for you as you go along, and so your application doesn't have to stop the container and then restart it every time that you make simple changes. And then you can have this on and then be developing as you go. So you could do all these simple changes. You can make changes to your the source file and then see these changes happen in real time as you go along. Now what I want to do is to pull in an example that is a little bit more complex than what we are looking at here. Okay. Now if I look into, I just wanted to show you what we have going on here. This is actually a very simple blog application, and it actually has all the other participants that we saw the first time, except that this time these are actually being used. So what I'll do is run the application quickly and then show you some of the things that are interacting to do this. Okay. Right. So this is just a simple weblog app. Allows you to go in and then create values. Simple crap stuff. And then it also has functionality to allow you to look at results, and then if they're not consistent with what you're expecting, show all of that. It's a bit more complex. As you can see, it has a few more Java files going on. And a few more exciting things happening in our elements. For instance, see here, RIFE is actually taking a block called form and then setting a value to it. So this is basically how you actually interact with your templates. You pull them out and then you do all sorts of processing for them in here. And whenever there's a problem or you do submissions, they come back to your Java files for all the processing that you have to do.
So form in that case is one of those little tags that's $B.
Yes.
That's a block.
Yeah.
So you're substituting whatever's in there with that news added thing.
Exactly.
Which is whatever you've got from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you got 1 minute left.
Sorry, very quickly.
Yeah. Let me just wrap up here.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, we are short for time, but you basically seen just some of a few things that you can do it right. You can download the package and start hammering at your code right away. It deals with simple modules for if you're dealing with your domain model. You're not extending anything in the framework itself. And then if you have to set constraints, which is what actually happened when we tried to do a post and we had not submitted any values, we saw that it came back with a mandatory mark on some of those fields. Those are constraints, and you can actually just write what are called metadata classes for all your modules. So if you have a module full, you just write a full metadata class, and it's a configuration that RIFE uses, and it auto merges whatever constraints you have into your modules, so you don't have to litter your regular modules with some of these things. It implements all sorts of things for you. It has IOC support in there. It comes with its own authentication framework already implemented for you, so you can just pick that, and you're not able to see it, but if you just go download that Jumpstart and start hammering away with it, you will see some of these things. It's so easy to use, and you will get used to all these, in a matter of a day, And so RIFE gets you done, lets you get things done quickly. It's consistent, it's simple, allows you to become productive, and it's chock full of a lot of goodies.
Yeah, I bet it is. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.